And I now invite the Director of the Division for Social Policy and Development of DESA, Ms. Daniela Bas, to make an introductory statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. I will entertain you until the Undersecretary General joins us, since I have to brief you about the 6 reports in one note. So I'll try to be short, but you have to be patient because it will take a few minutes. So it's really my pleasure and honor to introduce these 6 reports and the note. I would like to draw your attention, starting with agenda item 28A, about the report entitled The Implementation of the Outcome of the World Summit for Social Development and of the 24th Special Session of the General Assembly. In this report, and during the 55th session of the Commission for Social Development, we noticed that there was a special focus on trends in inequality within and among countries. And the report examines strategies to reduce inequalities, strategies. The report also assesses progress made in eradication poverty within the context, of course, of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And we noticed that the progress has been tremendous in reducing poverty. Despite significant disparities and inequalities in many social and economic dimensions, they persist between and within countries. And while income inequality among countries has fallen, the overall inequality within countries, both income and non-income, has increased in many countries. Furthermore, significant health inequities remain across countries and also across regions. And gender disparities in access to education persist in some regions. I would like to give you an example. On average, girls in Sub-Saharan Africa attend school for 9 years, and in some countries, as few as 5 years, compared with the 17 years in North America or Western Europe. The report also addresses other issues and special needs of Africa and also of the least developing countries and developed countries, and reviews progress made in the implementation of programs that are related to social groups, such as youth, such as older persons, such as persons with disabilities, family, and of course, also our other groups, such as indigenous peoples. So key recommendations for your consideration, I would say, are strategic, and they should address structural causes of poverty and inequalities, in our view, universal social policies and investments, and also the human capital and the social protection, and the need for international community to support national committees to eradicate poverty in all its forms, to ensure really that no one is left behind. And this is why the Commission for Social Development, given its mandate and experience in promoting people-centered inclusive development, plays a key role in contributing to the effective implementation of the 2030 Agenda in a holistic and inclusive manner, serving as a platform, as a forum, to find solutions that really benefit all. So, in conclusion, the report of the Secretary General on the implementation of the outcome of the World Summit for Social Development focuses on the growing consensus and the high and rising inequalities. And this poses major challenges to further progress the eradication of poverty. So the report noted that global income inequality has declined. But our question is this sufficient to reduce poverty? So The current rate of reduction in global income inequality is expected to halt due to the high population growth in countries with a high incidence of poverty. And those countries experience wide inequality within country, and the patterns of growth are not inclusive enough to reduce existing inequality and poverty. And moreover, the report pointed out that non-income inequality, such as inequality in wealth, in health, health inequalities, gender disparities, in access to secondary school, inequality in access to technology, including ICT, remain significant and persist across countries and regions, posing a challenge to eradicate poverty by the year 2030. For your consideration also, the note by the Secretary General on the World Social Situation 2017, A/72/211. What might need to be brought to your attention is that this report specifically focuses on social protection as a tool to promote social inclusion. And social protection is a social investment, in the same way as it is education, health, nutrition, water, and sanitation services. I would like to share with you 3 observations that you will find in this report. The first one is that the focus of the report is on the role of social protection that is promoting social inclusion and sustainable development. The second, a major issue for social protection regimes is sustainability. And we notice that gaps in the actual coverage are very important, and therefore we might wish to strengthen the important public-private partnerships, if I think, for instance, of social services and social protection. And the intention of this report is to raise the issue of fresh approaches and new directions in the formulation of policies alternatives for social welfare, which is an essential investment. It's an investment decision which is furthering the goals and objectives of the agenda. So the report puts forward 3 basic conditions to promote inclusive social protection systems. The first one is universal coverage, so that we make sure that all the needs of the diverse groups of the population of the world are met. The second is to improve access, so that all individuals will benefit of social protection floors without discrimination. And the third point is definitely related to adequate standards of living and health care. So we really want to leave no one behind. I will move now, Mr. Chair, to the other report of the Secretary General on cooperatives in social development, which is contained in document A/72/159. And it makes a very strong case why cooperatives are organizations that promote economic progress while satisfying the social cultural needs of their members. And it shows how cooperatives as enterprises models have been effective to reducing poverty and hunger, stimulating economic growth, creating employment and decent opportunities, and building social capital. And we address also inequalities and the empowerment of women in the least developed countries. And this report also explores the contribution of cooperatives at all levels to addressing the development challenges of the least developed countries. You will find there many recommendations, 3 of which I would like to bring to your attention. The first one, governments, the international community, and the cooperative movement should work jointly and will keep working jointly to raise awareness of the contribution of cooperatives to sustainable development. The other one, governments are urged to formulate and revise national laws and regulations that are more conducive to the creation of growth of cooperatives as well as development and harmonization of statistical frameworks for the systematic collection of comprehensive data. And the third one is related to continue providing technical support and capacity building assistance to cooperatives at national level to maximize the contribution of cooperatives to the implementation of the SDGs. I would like to pass now to the other report, Mr. Chair and delegates, that is the one on aging. So the report entitled Follow-up to the Second World Assembly on Aging focuses on older persons that should be integrated into the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Through that, in the SDGs, we read for all at all ages, though aging specifically is not mentioned, but we have to keep in mind that focusing on economic security and the well-being of older persons, including income poverty, is key. And the report addresses also other key areas that are determinants of poverty and vulnerability in old age, such as access to work, financial services, good health, and long-term care. And it's very important also to provide ideas about new initiatives. And I would like to bring your attention to one that is towards the creation of a city group on aging and age disaggregated data, which is expected to be included in the provisional agenda of the 49th session of the Statistical Commission to be held next year. Family. Another report for your consideration is the implementation of the objectives of the International Year of the Family and its follow-up, which analyzes recent trends in family policies in the areas of poverty, social exclusion, and inequality reduction. Key for eradication of poverty are the gender-sensitive social protection systems, in addition, targeted cash transfer for vulnerable families. They prove to be very effective by providing them access to basic services and quality education and health service. Very important is the multi-generational approach to social protection. And in the report, you will find also some examples on cost-effective policy solutions. There are some areas such as the promotion of intergenerational living arrangements, parental education, and programs supporting grandparents that would help the advancement of solidarity between generations. I would like now to move to the other report about social inclusion, entitled Promoting Social Integration Through Social Inclusion, contained in document A/72-189. You will find in this report an overview of recent social integration strategies for youth, older persons, persons with disabilities, and indigenous peoples that are focusing on the promotion of economic, civil, and political participation, including in planning, implementing, and also monitoring processes, anti-discrimination measures, and other initiatives that promote social inclusion. So let me share with you some recommendations on, on specific efforts that could promote and should promote participation of social groups. For instance, economic participation can further encourage through better access to credit, vocational training, and employment support services, investments in digital inclusion and in e-government initiatives have the potential to increase public participation in all spheres of life. Anti-discrimination measures can be further promoted through appropriate legislation, and gender perspective should be a key element as well of all social inclusion strategies and initiatives, particularly in terms of economic empowerment of women and gender-sensitive policy environment in the workplace. So the report concludes that promoting full social inclusion is fundamental for a sustainable future. And how? By changing the norms, underpinning or perpetuating unequal power relations and the exclusion and marginalization of some social groups, including migrants and refugees. And human rights education can contribute to this goal as well. Mr. Chair, now let's pass to youth. So I would like to bring your attention to the report of the Secretary General entitled Youth Development Links to Sustainable Development, which is contained in document A/72/190. And the last one will be on disability. So the report on youth asserts that while the implementation of the 2030 Agenda could broaden the scope of youth policies and provide expanded youth information, the World Programme of Action for Youth remains a useful international framework to guide youth policies and includes this report some key topics for youth development. I would like to bring to your attention 4 key points. The very first one is that we need to develop and strengthen existing evidence-based national policies for youth development and coherent cross-sectoral efforts in line with the World Programme of Action on Youth and the 2030 Agenda. The second is to prioritize and commit adequate resources for implementation of youth-related policies, including youth participation in development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation strategies. The third, mainstream youth perspectives, in particular those of marginalized youth groups. I think of young indigenous peoples, young refugees and young migrants. I think of young youth with disabilities. There is the need here to ensure effective implementation of the World Programme of Action for Youth and the 2030 Agenda to leave no one behind. And the fourth one is to strengthen the capacity of national statistical offices to design, collect, and analyze age disaggregated data so as to contribute effectively to follow-up reporting and accountability for achievement of the youth dimension in the 2030 Agenda. The last report is on disability. For your consideration, under agenda item 73A is the implementation of human rights instruments. Under this agenda item, allow me to draw your attention to the report of the Secretary General on the situation of women and girls with disabilities and the status of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the optional protocol thereto contained in document A/72/227. This report, submitted by the submitted pursuant to the GA Resolution 70/145, provides an overview of the situation of women and girls with disabilities and presents ongoing efforts and progress made by governments, the entities of the UN system, and the civil society organizations in advancing the rights and the status of women and girls with disabilities in society and in development. The report also provides an update on the status of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the optional protocol. It concludes with recommendations for the full and equal participation of women and girls with disabilities in the implementation of the Convention and of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Mr. Chair, thank you for your patience to you all. I thank you for the opportunity to present these reports and trust that you will find the main messages and recommendations of these reports useful as you proceed with your deliberations. Thank you. I promised that I was going to entertain you until the Undersecretary General was coming, you see?
I thank the Director of the Division for Social Policy and Development of DESA for her statement.